Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Beer Geek Nation, a homebrewing session. Well, the start of a homebrewing session, I have to say. One thing I've wanted to do since I started the channel was to show you guys how to make a yeast starter. And if you guys don't know what a yeast starter is, getting new into homebrew, if you're homebrewer, you have to know what a yeast starter is. But for you guys that don't homebrew or are just getting into homebrewing, a yeast starter is basically a mini beer that you make. You put your yeast into, and essentially you get your yeast, ready to go, ramped up, all warmed up, and then you pour that quote mini beer into your, real beer that you brew the next day or whatever, and your yeast are just gonna be ready to go. They're gonna clean that beer out really quickly. It's gonna be a nice, vigorous, clean, fast fermentation. You're not gonna get any off flavors. It's gonna get all those fermentable sugars out of there, and it's just something that you need to do. I highly recommend it. Any beer, I would say anything above 1.040, you absolutely, in my opinion, must make a yeast starter. Anything below that, you can make one in like 20 minutes. It's just going to help your beer taste that much better. So with all that said, let me show you guys the equipment you're going to need, and then I'll show you the process. Again, it's probably a 20-minute process, so it's something you can do before you go to work the day before, or that night or whatever. I have to go to work today, so I'm doing this video while my son's napping and right before lunch. So just to show you guys how quick and easy it is, the stuff you need. So with that said, let me show you the equipment and we'll get into it. Cheers. Alright guys, so the stuff you're going to need, and I apologize for the sound you guys hear in the background. I'm going to get to that in a second. I'll show you what that actually is. Your main ingredients as far as actually making the quote yeast, mini beer, dry malt extract. You want to use 2 cups of water, so you're going to need a measuring cup, measuring cup, 2 cups of water to half a cup of DME. That is the ratio. That's the easiest way to do it. That's going to get you a beer roughly about 1.040, which is ideal for yeast. So any light, I use light DME, but any DME you have is fine. Using a light, it's not going to impart any flavors in your beer or anything, so don't worry about that. So again, it's 2 cups of water to half a cup of dry malt extract. So that's really the base of the beer. Moving along, you want to have your spray bottle of sanitizer. I use Star San. Definitely want that. You're gonna need a spoon, obviously. And here is the thing that not a lot of people use, and I really think they should. I can't recommend it enough. This, my friends, is a stir plate. This is from stirstarters.com. He's a home brewer. He basically builds these in his garage, for lack of a better word. But it's $42. It's got a lifetime replacement on it, so if anything ever goes wrong, just send it back to him. He builds them specifically for you in your brewery. He includes a magnetic stir bar, as well as in that envelope back there's a magnet that you can stick to the bottom of the Erlenmeyer flask that'll hold the stir bar there when you're pouring it in. So stirstarters.com. I definitely recommend you guys get a stir plate. It's going to increase your yeast by about 3-fold rather than if you were just to put the yeast in there and let it do its thing. So the other thing I also recommend is an Erlenmeyer flask, which is this thing right here. It's about between 10 and 15 bucks for 1,000. That's a liter one. You can get 2 liter ones. I actually have a 5 liter one. So when I do like double box or a massive beer, I make like a 4 or 5 liter starter. But you can also get those on stirstarters.com. I believe it's 12 bucks for an Erlenmeyer flask. So again, this is something you don't absolutely need, but it's absolutely something I absolutely recommend you get, because it just makes your yeast starters that much better, and it's got a lifetime replacement on it. So honestly, it will actually last you a lifetime. If it ever breaks, you get a new one. So with that, definitely get that Erlenmeyer flask, stir starter, pot. I make my my boil in here, and then I move it into the Erlenmeyer flask. If you want to, you can actually boil the beer for the starter in the Erlenmeyer flask, but the problem I've always had is it always seems to boil over really easily, and it just gets annoying. So and I get yelled at for screwing up the stove and getting it everywhere. So I just make it in a pot. It's a lot easier, and then I transfer it into the Erlenmeyer flask. And the nice thing about Erlenmeyer flasks is you don't have to worry about it breaking in extreme between hot and cold. You can put a boiling liquid in there. You can dip it right into the ice, and it'll be fine. It's the beauty of Pyrex. So moving on. Aluminum foil. That's what's going to go on top of the flask. We're going to spray it down with some Star Sand, put it on there. You don't want to use a, air bubbler, like a fermentation lock on these, just because you want the gases to stay in suspension in the starter. You want all the oxygen to mix in, which is what the stir starter does. It actually, keeps the oxygen, CO2 moving in there, keeps feeding the yeast, keeps them moving, gets all the sugars out of there. So aluminum foil, we're just going to cover the top here, and that's what you want to do. You don't have to worry about a fermentation lock or anything. And of course, last but not least, is the yeast. This one is a Yeast. This is the French Saison 3711, one of my favorite Saison yeasts. I'm actually going to be brewing a Saison tomorrow. Nice. It's a small sessionable Saison. It comes in about 1.040, probably about 4.5 alcohol. But yeah, I use smack packs, so I smack this one, even though, it's got nutrient in it, so I figured, hey, why not? So I'm just going to, once I have the starter made up, I'm going to dump this into the flask, and away we go. So let's get into it. All right, so here we go. Remember, guys, 2 cups of water to half a cup of DME. So I've got my 2 cups of water there, and let me turn the stove on. I guess I should have done that. Put it on high. And this is my half cup of DME, and you want to use a separate measuring cup for this, because if this stuff gets wet, it's a nightmare to get out of the measuring cup. So 2 cups of water, half cup of DME. I'm just going to keep saying that so you guys get ingrained in your head. Just get all the chunks broken up. I'm not a big fan of DME. It works better than liquid malt extract, and it gives a better flavor and a better appearance to the beer. You can actually get a different color on the beer if you're not doing all grain with DME. But I find it to be a pain in the ass to work with the clumping, and if you get it wet, and it's just a real pain. Right, so you guys can see I have the boil going. And again, set a timer for 10 minutes. Let this go once it gets up to a full rolling boil like you're about to see here. Let it go for 10 minutes. Again, 2 cups of water, half a cup of DME, dry malt extract, and that is all that's in there. Let it boil for 10 minutes, and then we're going to cool it. So we will show you that next. All right, so all I do, real simple to chill this stuff down. Fill my sink with ice, dump a bunch of ice in it. Because it is such a small volume of, I use beer loosely. It's not really beer, it's just basically unfermented wort. But basically, I'm just going to put it in there. I'm going to transfer it from the pot into the Erlenmeyer flask. And what that's also going to do, when you put the boiling liquid in here, it's going to sanitize it for you. So you don't need to put any Star Sand or anything. When you do dump the yeast in, I'll show you here, I'm going to Star Sand around the rim. But other than that, I'm going to put the beer right into here. I'm going to start swirling in the ice. And keep in mind, this is going to get really hot, the glass. So you want to use a towel or an oven mitt or something to do it. But once the boil is through, I'll show you guys how to do that. And in a perfect world, you don't want to spill any, but it's going to happen. All right, so that's it. So there it is. That's the wort there. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dunk this right in this bath here. I'm going to swirl it around. And again, you don't have to be afraid of the glass breaking with these flasks. It's really what they're designed to do. And you want to swirl it around, get all the surfaces. If you swirl it around, you get the beer a little bit thinner, so more beer actually touches the cold water. And this usually takes, about 5 minutes. You want it cool to the touch, where you can actually touch the flask. That's usually when you know it's pretty good. It's usually around, 75, 70 degrees, somewhere in there. And that is the ideal pitching temp. So let me get this cooled down, and I will show you guys pitching the yeast. All right, so just cool down the wort. Again, it takes about 5 minutes. One thing I forgot to mention is that when you guys do that, if you do pour the boiling liquid straight into your Erlenmeyer flask, make sure that the glass at the neck and around to here is also cool. So like put a wet towel in the ice water and just soak it here or something for a minute or two. if you pour the yeast in, it hits the side of the glass and it's still super hot. Even though this is cool, it's going to hit this and it's going to kill the yeast. So it's kind of counterproductive a little bit. But yeah, it takes about 5 minutes to get this cooled, a lot quicker than it does to take beer. And again, just swirl it around, make sure it's not hot. It's just going to be about room temperature. And that feels good. That actually feels a little bit colder than I need it to be. But so what do we do next? Yeast, obviously. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, if you're using a star plater, and again, I highly recommend you do, it's going to increase the yeast by 3-fold rather than just, you know, doing it naturally. So I definitely recommend stirstarters.com. Again, 42 bucks will get you a really good one that lasts a lifetime, literally, and pick up an Erlenmeyer flask. But what I want to do is the stir bar, I put in sanitizer solution. Stuff some Star San in there. So you can see there's the stir bar for that. So I'm going to put that in the flask now, and you don't want to drop it in the bottom, just kind of slide it down to the side there. So that's in, and that's actually what creates the stirring motion. There's a magnet in the stir plate. It spins the stir bar, and that's how you get the vortex going. So what I'm going to do here is I spray. I'm really paranoid about sanitation. I've never had an infected batch. I've done hundreds of beers, never had an infected batch, so it works. But I'm just gonna spray where I'm gonna cut. And again, that's over paranoid, but it's what I do. And I'm also gonna spray down the scissors. So let me spray those over here. Okay, so the scissors are there. Scissors are sanitized. I'm just gonna cut a small. Hopefully that was enough. Yep. All right, and we are going to pour, oh, that yeast smells good. I'm going to pour it right into the container. Okay, and I actually did really good on that one. I only got a little bit on the side. I tip it just to make sure I get all that gunk on the side, just because I'm OCD about it. Give it a nice swirl. Just to get it all mixed in there. And then what I'm going to do, all right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the stir starter going. And you want to start real slow and kind of ramp it up. And that's how it works. You guys can see that it gets that nice vortex going in there. And that is the ideal situation for a good yeast starter. It's just going to keep that oxygen moving throughout the beer, and it's really going to help the yeast kind of thrive. You don't want it too quick. Yeah, that's about right. Next step is the easiest step, I think. Spray down the foil with some Star San, because you don't want to screw it up with that. And that goes right on top, like so. And just crimp it down so that, you know, there's no blow off or anything. And that's it. That is a yeast starter. Yeah, guys, so that's pretty much it. It took me 33 minutes from start to finish, and that was with setting up the cameras and the mics and everything. It's something I think you guys should definitely be doing, and most of you do, but for you guys who haven't done it, new homebrewers and whatever, this is the way you do it. So the highlights, what are the highlights of this? Get yourself the right equipment, Erlenmeyer flask and a stir plate. They're about 42 bucks for the stir plate, and again, it's gonna last you a lifetime. Erlenmeyer flask is between 10 and 15 bucks. For a 1 liter, you can get a 2 liters about 25, 5 liters about 60. But if you're gonna make big beers, you're gonna need that stuff. Number 2, what is the ratio? Remember, 2 cups of water, half a cup of DME, dry malt extract. Sanitize, sanitize, sanitize everything. Spray down your yeast, your scissors, your stir bars, everything. Boil time, 10 minutes, that's it. Just put it in there, put it on a pan, 10 minutes, dump it in your flask, chill it down, takes about 5 minutes. And that's it, guys. I'm going to be brewing tomorrow, so you guys are going to be seeing that video very, very soon. It's I think it's a really light saison. I think I said that, about 4.5%. So with that said, guys, remember, life is too short. Drink amazing beers, which I'm not because I have to go to work. But again, another important thing about making a yeast starter, homebrewing in general, is to have a good beer on hand to sip on while you're doing that. So cheers, guys.